Morning, everybody. It's Sunday, June 24th, or evening, wherever you are, I guess. Beautiful day here on this Sunday. Out here in the garage, going to work a little bit, continue on a little bit with our Subaru engine, and we'll get some more parts to that together today. And I'll get you guys set up on the stand, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, we're all set. First thing, what we're going to do today is we're going to put our pistons together. We'll assemble them, and we'll install them in the case halves. We have basically in these there's a left and a right side piston. You'll notice that the top, hopefully the camera's picking it up, has a B right here. The B on the top of the piston will correspond with that little pin that's right in there. And when these get assembled in the short block, the little pins face inwards. So basically the two pistons, the B's, this is number 1, this is number 3, and the B's will face each other like so. Okay, number 3 is ready to go. We got that all assembled and ready. We'll put number 1 together here for ourselves. You notice I put some numbers on the top and one little mark on the side of the piston. These are reference marks that I use. Once again, you know, this is the way that I do it, and it works okay for me. This is how we're going to separate our ring gap. Number 1 is going to be our top compression ring. Number 2 will be our second compression ring. Number 3 will be our top oil ring. Number 4 will be our bottom oil ring. And then this mark right here will be the gap in our oil ring spacer. That way there, we very easily we know where everything goes, and they go right together. So first thing we're going to put in is our oil ring spacer, and they're kind of unique. They have a wire in them. You can see, I don't know, hopefully the camera's picking this up. They have a wire that just kind of slides in and out of each other like that. This gap is what we want to put here. Basically, the gap in this goes under the gap in our second ring. So we just open that up a little bit, put it down on, push it together, and there you have it. And that's basically all there is to that. And then over here by our B, it'll sit, the pin will sit in one of those ridges and retain that spacer so it can't spin in operation. So, got that on. We're going to build from the bottom up. So next up we have our lower oil control ring, where the gap of that is going to be right here. Now, with these, they make tools that go in here and expand your rings out. I've always actually preferred not to use those. Just my preference. There's nothing wrong with them, but I kind of like to do it by hand, kind of like I'll show you here. Start this in, second groove, kind of just work it right around like that. Goes down. Now it's in there. We'll pull it out. We'll go down to the bottom. Same thing. Work it around very easily, not pulling too hard on it or anything like that, and get it down. And all we have to do is roll our gap up. Number 4, here's our gap, and we're good. Okay. Next up, we'll put our top oil ring on. This one here is a little bit different than the bottom oil ring. I don't know if it's going to pick this up or not. there's a little tab on the top one. You want that tab to face down towards our spacer. So our top oil ring will be number 3. Put the tab down. We'll install this basically the same way. Kind of roll it around by hand. Very easily goes in. And now what we'll do is we'll take it down, give it a little spread, and we'll get it started where we want it. So it's got to be around over here. This one here sometimes can be a little hard because they get together, there's not a lot of gap in them. And like so. So there's our second oil ring, top oil ring. Number 3 is locked in, and that's basically completes our oil ring assembly. Everything's there in place. Cool. Okay, so that's 4, 3, and we got that lined up. Now we'll go to number 2, which is our second compression ring. The compression rings, I don't know how well the camera will pick it up this either. There's a stamp on the top of the ring right there. It's like a little N. That N wants to go up towards the top of the piston. The top is the same way. It's marked similarly, and those two marks want to go up. So okay, same thing. We're going to be number 2. You have to be a little bit more careful with these. These rings are a little bit more brittle. Just be very careful. Very easily kind of drop them around. Down in. No hurry to do this. Once you get it started, you just work it around like that. And we'll align this gap here with our number 2, which is where we want it, and it's right over the top of our oil ring spacer. Okay, so there's number 2. We have left is our top ring. Once again, there's our mark. Mark goes up. Top ring is a little bit thinner than the second ring. Kind of distinguishes them apart. It pops in. Okay, there we go. Got all that there. Alright, now, as these go in, basically, you know, once again with our B's facing each other, 2 pins facing each other, and that means that on number 3, our wrist pin is going to go in this way. On number 1, our wrist pin is going to go in this way, because in the center, we're not going to be able to access with everything together. So what we want to do is we want to take on the inside of number 1, we'll take our circlip and just pop that in. And there's a little groove in there. We start our ring in the little groove and just work it around. Of course, it's being very stubborn today. There's an in and out to these rings. You need to make sure that they have a slight concave that faces out, and you want to make sure that it's not facing in. Okay? When you get them in, they'll snap into that groove, and that's it. Now, with that ring in there, what it will do when we go to put these in the engine, our wrist pin will slide right in up against the ring, a little retainer. And then there's another retainer that goes on the outside and holds it in the connecting rod. Okay, so that's basically our pistons are now assembled. One thing I didn't mention, if you're reusing componentry, when you take these apart, you want to make sure that the inside of the grooves and the piston, where the ring lands and so forth, are very, very clean. You don't want any dirt, any carbon, anything like that left in there. Once again, they make tools to do that. They go in there and they kind of scrape around in the groove. I don't really care for those as well. I think it's a little bit easy, especially with an aluminum piston. It's pretty easy to damage the insides of the groove. So what I'll do is I'll knock everything loose with an X-Acto knife, and then I've got a very soft bristled wire, and I'll just go in and clean them out with that afterwards. So that way your rings can get full movement. They're not restricted at all. You don't want them tight or bound up in any way. So that's basically our pistons. Okay, we got that assembled, and it's just repeat on all of them. So we have 1 and 3 assembled. Okay, so now that we've got our pistons assembled, we'll start here with number 1. Take our wrist pin out. Number 1. Okay, this would be the top of it because there's our mark pointed to the inside. So we're going to install, this is the type of ring compressor I like to use. Once again, just a personal preference thing. Drops over like that. But before we do that, go ahead and we'll put a little bit of oil in here. Oil is our friend, of course. Don't need a lot, but just enough to make it slick. Like so. Alright, with that in there, we'll drop this down, and on these, and you'll see why when we go to drop them in. What I want to do is I want to have the tightener on the bottom. And we'll just do another check, make sure our gaps are good. Still like all that. We'll just drop this on over there like so. Tool, and then we'll just tighten this thing up. Keep that even. So, and there. Our rings are now compressed. Okay, so we'll push this down a little bit and start our piston skirts out like that. So that's what we want at this point, is just like right there. Alright, let me get you guys all repositioned again, and we'll drop this in. Alright, so before we do too much else, go in, gonna wetten up our cylinder with some oil. Like I say, don't need a ton, just enough to make it kind of slick. Alright, this is the front of the engine. This is our number 1 cylinder here, number 3 here. What I've done in the inside is I've rolled our crankshaft around to drop the connecting rod down at the bottom of its stroke for number 1. And then we'll come up, we got our B, which goes to the inside. Kind of set this here, like so. Pretty much want it at a right angle. And then push that down. When we get to the very bottom, we'll take our little mallet and just tap her in. There you go. Alright. Move it down just a bit. Now, what we need to do, this is the part that with these, it's a little bit tricky. The wrist pin on these will go through this hole right here. So in order to do that, we've kind of got to play around here a little bit and line things up. Move this to check and see you guys are still looking at what I'm doing. Okay. Now, what we'll do is we're going to look in here, kind of see where our connecting rod is. Okay. Alright, that's pretty good right there. Well, I'm going to have to knock this down a little bit. I'm going to carefully come down the bore with a piston. Okay. Take our connecting rod down a little bit. It's at its lowest point. Continue to go down. See our piston's starting to come. Hopefully the camera's picking it up. Our piston's starting to come into the picture here. There you go. We kind of want to center our piston in our rod. We're going to want to turn it a little bit. Just use anything round that will go in there, won't score it. That's good. Okay. So now our piston is in position. So what we need to do now is the easiest way that I found to do this is with our piston down in position. I'm going to take this block, I'm going to flip it over so the connecting rod will hang straight down. We can move it up and down the stroke by rotating the crankshaft. It'll hang straight down in here and it's easier to line up and get our piston pin in. So let's do that. We'll take, they do make some very fancy stands for these, but to be perfectly honest with you, they're kind of expensive. And doing things this way, like I say, it's just the way I've always done it, and it works. Put you guys down. Okay. Now I don't know. Maybe I can. Okay. So you can see there's our piston is right there. Now what we got to do with our connecting rod hanging in there, this is a little bit of a trick, is we've got to slowly rotate it. Into rough alignment, if you will. It's not bad. I got to come up with just a little bit. Okay. May have to go down just a bit with our piston. Boy, that looks pretty good right there, guys. Now, they also, of course, you know, in this world, everybody makes some really special tools that, you know, most people don't have. This is the way I do this. What I do is your wrist pins, of course, they're polished. On the inside, there's a machined groove about halfway. What I do is take a deep 8mm socket and an extension, put it into the wrist pin. It won't go through. See, it's held out all the way. But now I've got something I can get a little leverage with. So what we'll do there is we'll start this in. Sometimes you gotta move around a little bit. Wiggle it in, and voila. There you go. Our wrist pin is in. So now that our wrist pin is in, we'll take our second lock, basically put it in the same way. A little bit more interesting, you know, getting it in here. Pop it into the groove. Like so. Just like so. Okay, I'll push this down. You guys can see everything. Okay, our wrist pin is in, our piston's in, our retainers on the piston. What happens now is on this side of the block, on this hole, and the one above it here, there's a plug that threads in there with sealant and a sealing washer on here. Keeps oil from leaking out. And on the back side, you don't have that because we still have a bell housing to put on back here that actually gets sealed to the back of the block, and the rear main seal is in the bell housing. So the back side is open, but these two do get two little plugs that go here. So what I'm going to do now is basically just repeat this exact process 3 more times. When we put in number 3 cylinder, or number 3 piston here, it goes in the same way, and we just do exactly the same thing just from the back side. So pretty easy to do. Just keep in mind these couple things. 8mm long socket in the center of the wrist pin. Like you say, it worked great. And you just wiggle it around a little bit, she'll pop right in. So that's that. Okay, so I'm not going to go over, you know, the other 3. I'll do those off camera. Like I said, it's exactly the same, just 3 more times. And then what we'll have is we'll have our pistons in, and now we have a short block assembly. I've got some parts here to clean now. Once the pistons are all in, I'll clean and paint the oil pan. I got to clean the bell housing. Put the bell housing on. Front and rear crankshaft seals can go in. We'll probably our next video, what I'll do is we'll put our oil pump in. Oil pump is an external pump on these. It goes to the outside of the engine, so we can do that even after the oil pan is on. And we'll continue working away. And just as a reminder for everybody, this is Sunday. Get a hold of 265 Chevy if you haven't already. Get him, he'll help you get set up. You can go into the Mumble chat tonight at 8 o'clock Central Time. And, you know, we'll be in there and once again discussing the issues of the day and videos and just shooting the bull. So look forward to doing that, seeing all the guys. And you new guys, come on in there too. It's a good time. So until the next time, we'll catch you later.